오케이. 오케이, 알겠습니다. They know that he's going to be in the lead, so they put his name up already.
제 말씀 들려요? 제 말씀은 들려요?
네, 저는 들립니다. 예, 지금 네, 여기 이영재 PD님이 지금 들리냐고 물어보는데요. 그거 턱백에서 그거 혹시 안 들리나요?
잘 들려요? 제 거 잘 들려요?
This is the 2011 Korea Cup International Yacht Race. Hello and welcome. My name is Jason Lee, and I'm joined by Mr. Shim Young-shik. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone.
All right, we have the fourth edition of the Korea Cup. Let's talk a little bit about this race. What exactly is it?
This is one of the major offshore races in Asia. It's 545 kilometers long. It goes from Pohang to Ulung Island. From Ulung Island, it goes to Dokdo. That's a parade to Dokdo, I should say. And then from Dokdo back to Pohang. That's 250 kilometers long. While they're at Ulung Island, they also have an inshore race in front of Sadong Harbor. But today, we're here for the inshore race, which precedes the offshore race.
Okay, so definitely a variety of races that we're going to have with this international race taking part. And as we say international, it certainly is an international race because it's not just Korea taking part in this. There's several nations.
Yes, we have several countries, actually about 10 countries. A lot of sailors from Russia, some from the U.S. They're all ranked sailors from the U.S. Some sailors from Philippines, and we have other countries represented. Altogether, about 10 countries. 300 sailors, 60 boats. Big race.
Wow, certainly going to be a very exciting day. When we take a look at the course for today's race, I understand that it's a little bit different from last year. How is the course going to play out?
The course is an M-shaped course this year. This is made for broadcast and also for the terrain or the shape of the harbor. And it has a long first leg. And if you do really well on the first leg, you have a good chance of winning this race. And for those narrow hulls and light boats, under the wind conditions today, they would be favored.
Okay, well, it certainly will be a windy day to my understanding, so we're going to get to the race in a moment, so let's go and join the live broadcast. All right, we're taking a look at Yeongil Bay, which is in Pohang. Pohang is on the east coast of Korea, towards the southern side, not quite at the southern tip, but towards the southern side. This is Bukbu Beach, as we take a look at all the boats and people participating in the yacht race. So as we see the entries, distance of the course should be about 5 to 6 miles, and the estimated time of the race, we can say probably somewhere between about 50 to 60 minutes. As we take a look, here is the competitors, 59 yachts from 9 nations, 226 competitors, and of course this is over a couple of days. It's not just today, but today's race is the inshore race that we see here as we take a look at Yeongil Bay. Very beautiful harbor here that we can see.
That's a real nice harbor to do yacht racing. Wind is fairly steady. There are not the short choppy waves that can really slow down boats. As long as, there's the delay flag that has gone up. As soon as that comes down, then we get into the 5-minute start sequence. They're about ready to lower that, I think, and so we're about 5 or 6 minutes away from the start.
Okay, and as we see the flag, we're going to take a look at some of the participants of today's race. There's the horn.
Okay, I heard the horn.
And there's one more shot of the bay. Let's take a look at the competitors taking part. Some of these Korean boats: Sexy Busan, Sunny Venus, U2, Team Hemaru, and Y Cox. You can see a lot of these with a lot of crew members, 8, 9 plus. We also have the Tiburon from Russia, the Carrera, the Time Machine, Fortune, Ominoko, First, and Gust. These are all Russian boats that have found their way over here to Korea.
Okay, we're about to have the start signal here.
As we see some of the boats, let's take a look also at the Diva, the Drake 40-1, Edelweiss, Kona Wind, Irudi. We have the Sea Wife, Peace, and Dufour.
Okay, here goes the 5-minute signal.
So the race will begin in approximately 5 minutes' time. As mentioned, the race should take approximately 50 minutes to complete based on the course that has been outlined and the wind that has been brought in today. Looks like a bit of overcast skies as for the conditions, but looks dry out there in terms of rain of any sort, no precipitation as we take a look.
And if you take a look at the flags that are hanging off the wires off the boats, you'll see that they're not flapping too much, so there's not much wind there right now. In a situation like this, again, it would be those light hull and narrow hull boats with huge carbon sails that will have an advantage.
Obviously, in yachting or sailing, weather conditions absolutely important. They can dictate so much of who will win or lose a race. There's the 4-minute marker, so as the countdown begins. And weather conditions today, is it strictly the wind that matters, or are there other factors? Does it matter if it's overcast, if there's high or low precipitation, or moisture levels?
Well, the thing that matters the most is the wind, of course, and after that, perhaps the tide. As far as I know, there's not much of a tide in the harbor. That's one of the reasons why it's a good place to race. But those local sailors, if there are any in Pohang who have sailed this course before, they might know how the wind shifts in the harbor. And for those people who can know the minute differences in the tidal movements and the wind shifts and that sort of thing, would have an advantage over the other competitors.
Well, looks like I spoke a little bit too soon when mentioning that it doesn't appear that there's any precipitation, because it's looking now like there's an awful lot of precipitation. Rain coming down, appearing to be quite heavy here at Yeongyeo Bay in Pohang, and it's going to put a little bit of a dampener for the sailors, but of course they're going to be wet anyways. we're watching here from the monitors and TVs from home, so we can stay dry as we watch the sailors compete throughout these conditions.
Yeah, they'll be soaking wet for the next 4 or 5 days as they go to Dokdo and come back to Pohang. They'll be out in huge swells and big waves, and it's going to be a miserable time for them, but they do it for the adventure, of course. And there's big prize monies at stake as well.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the prize money. Generally speaking, when we're having a yacht competition like this, what sorts of prizes are there? And are there even entry fees or things like that to consider as well? Or who's allowed to race in this, and what do you gain from it?
Most most races, I should say, have an entrance fee. This one does too. It's a small nominal sum. But unusual to the yacht racing scene, Korea has a lot of prize monies. When we race overseas, I've never seen an amateur race where they offer prize monies. Even a lot of the pro races do not have prize monies. You go for the trophy. But in Korea, we do have some sizable prize monies. For instance, like today, the first place will win 1 million won. And for the first leg of the offshore race from Pohang to Ulleungdo is 4 million won for first place, 2 million for second, and 2 million for third. No, I'm sorry, 2.5 million for second, 2 million for third, 1 million for fourth, and 500,000 won for fifth. So, and then the race back from Dokdo to Pohang, once again, you had the 4 million, 2.5 million, 2 million, 1 million, 500,000 won. A lot of money.
So definitely some money available. We are now at the 1 minute mark. So in 1 minute we will begin the race as the boats are approaching the start line. And as they do, we're going to have quite an exciting start here. Generally speaking, in yachting, now I understand that the start isn't always the way that we're going to see it today. There's different starts as opposed to what we're going to see.
Yes, this is a fleet race start where all of the boats start together on the line. And the idea is to get to the start line at about time 0. But you want to be at full speed when you cross the start line. Look at the bowman. I just saw the bowman on that boat looking at his watch. We got about 10 seconds to go.
And as we are set to go just about, let's see what's going to
shoot
happen.
Off the cannon. Look at the cannon. Okay, we have a start.
And they're off. The start flag is up, and the race is now officially underway. The 2011 Korea Cup International Yacht Race. Everything comes down to this moment for the next 50 or so minutes. These boatmen are going to be running a course. As mentioned, it's going to be in an M sort of shape as we take a look at the weather conditions here. 24 degrees Celsius, a little bit of rain coming down, 64% humidity with wind speeds at 3 meters a second, and they're coming from the easterly direction. We're just off of Bukbu Beach as we take a look at the Venus here. That's a Korean boat. And you see probably about 8 members per boat on average in today's 8 to 9 members, it appears.
They're headed to the first mark, which is the longest distance away, which is the longest leg. The race can be won or lost on this leg, I believe. The wind is fairly light right now, and you will really need some sailing skills today to keep the boat pointed toward the mark, but at the same time maintaining your speed. The more you point, the less speed you have. So you need to continually go on a sort of a sinuous path where you fall off the wind a little bit to gain speed, and if you head away from the mark too much, then you go back up to the mark a little bit, go back and forth, back and forth. That's called feathering in yachting.
We're going to take a look at the actual course once again, just to give you an idea of exactly what these boats are going to be dealing with. So as you can see, they're going from left to right, or you can say from west to east, and then they're going to be doing this M sort of shape before returning to the finish line once again. Now that first leg from west to east, the wind is actually coming from the opposite direction. So as the wind is coming from the east towards the west, obviously this first leg will probably be the slowest leg that these boats will go through.
It would be, and depending on the wind direction, they would have to tack. That's changing direction by about between 70 to 90 degrees, depending on what kind of boat you're on. So there's a lot of strategy in play on the first leg.
With that first leg, now you mentioned tacking, which is, like you mentioned before, when you're sort of doing a zigzag towards the direction against the wind. How many times would you say would be a normal tack, or what distance would you go before turning to be with the wind?
Oh, before I answer that question, we're looking at Valentino. That's a boat filled with some disabled sailors. They are here training for the Olympics. They're going to the London Olympics, and they'll be actually competing in London in just a bit, I think, end of June. And they'll be there for the Weymouth yachting venue during the Olympics. And they'll have a sort of a practice run at Weymouth at the end of June. But getting back to your question again.
Yeah, I was asking about tacking. How many times would you generally turn left or right, or how have you, and how far would you go before turning?
Now that depends on the angle of the wind. If you have favorable winds and you're going at a pretty good angle, you might want to maintain that. But as soon as the wind shifts a little bit and you are now pointing away from the mark more and more, that means it's time to tack. So you would tack. For a distance of the leg that we have here today, I don't know how many times you would tack. It just depends on the wind again and the angle that you're sailing at. But ordinarily, for a distance of this kind, I would say maybe once or twice. You don't want to tack too many times because every time you tack, the boat slows down.
Well, you can see the boats attacking here as crew members shifting from one side to the other. Speaking of which, how many crew members is optimal, generally speaking? I mean, it seems like most boats here today seem to have about 8 to 9 crew member. What is the advantage of having more or less crew member, and what do they generally do on the boat? I think you only have one person steering the wheel.
There are a lot of assigned positions on a boat. You have the bowman, you have the mastman, you have the trimmer who trims the sails, you have the skipper, of course, who directs everything. He's the boss. He tells everyone what to do. And then on a windward course, as the boat heels over a little bit, you want to have some crew weight. We call that rail meat. Crew weight sitting on the upper side or the higher side of the boat, like this one here. I believe this is Time Machine, right? Oh, no, excuse me. I think this is Sexy Busan. This is the lead boat, right?
Yes, that is.
That's Sexy Busan, yes. That's a big boat. It's a 46-foot boat, IMS 46. And we have some good sailors on this boat. I believe Kim Jang-chul is the coach for the national team.
And as we take a look, here is the course once again as to how they are going to be going. And there is the tack. So right now they're still on that first leg going from west to east as they approach the first mark. A little bit foggy in the bay here as well.
It's kind of difficult to see the bow numbers on the boats.
Well, we were talking, a moment ago about responsibilities and crew members. What would be the advantage of having, let's say, 10 crew member as opposed to just 4 or 5?
Well, it depends on the size of the boat. Smaller the boat, less crew you would need, generally speaking. It depends on how the equipment is set up on the boat to see, if the boat can be controlled by a crew of 4 or 5, or you need 10 or 12. For an old boat like this, it doesn't really matter how many crew members you have, the one that you see here now. But for the modern speed sailing boats, you need to have optimum crew number, and that just depends on the wind conditions and the length of the boat and the equipment on the boat. I would say probably 5 or 6 would be good for a day like this. Some of the bigger boats would maybe have about 10, maybe 12 people.
You mentioned that the boat that we just saw there a moment ago obviously appears to be an older boat. Would you say that boats today are tremendously faster or better than boats from, let's say, 20, 40 years ago? Or what has technology done for yachting to improve boat speed and efficiency?
There has been a lot of improvement in the hull shape, a lot of experimenting with hull shape, and just recently they have come out with some very good hull shapes that are really fast. But despite that fact, even 100 years ago they had designs that could go almost as fast as the boats, the modern boats of today. For instance, the Melges line of boats that came out years ago, the Scows, the E-Scows and A-Scows and those boats, the design's been out there for almost 100 years, and yet back in those days, boats made out of wood were getting 25 knots, 30 knots, which is almost unheard of for racing of the kind that we see here today.
Wow. And generally, when you have a race like this, I mean, I would assume that if one particular boat is so much more efficient than another, that we would see a lot of the boats basically being the same. But in today's race, actually, there really aren't very many boats that are identical. I mean, these are almost like snowflakes, where no two are the same.
That's right. I don't see any identical boats. In fact, that's one of the problems in yacht racing, is that when you have a yacht race, you have all these different boats come to race, and you need to figure out a rating system, a handicap rating system that applies to each boat. that is fair for everyone. And as yachtsmen want to do, they always complain about the rating that they get for the boats. In Asia, we use generally IRC rating. In Korea, we use ORC rating. In Japan, they use ORC rating. Today, we have ORC class of boats in the ORC club class. And we also have the PHRS rating system for the rest of the boats in the open class. PHRS system is used in the U.S. Quite a bit. We do use it in Korea. The Korea Sailing Federation keeps a record of all of the ratings under that system.
And here in the ORC class, our leader continues to be the Sexy Busan.
Looks like they have about 8 or 9 people on board.
And as mentioned, we basically have 2 races that are taking place simultaneously right now. The ORC class, as mentioned, being led by this boat here right now, the Sexy Busan. But also, there is an open class race happening simultaneously. And basically, the difference, of course, is the rating of the boat, whether they have been classified appropriately or not.
Yeah, the open class generally has slower boats. But I do see that on the list of the open class boats here, there are some fast boats. It could be that they did not get the rating certificate on time to register for the race, and so they applied for the open class. The prize money throughout the race for the entire Korea Cup is less for the open class than for the ORC class.
And does it cost money to have your boat rated?
Oh yes, you have to pay a little fee to get your rating done.
Here is the Sexy Busan, still our leader, as we are approaching the first mark. Now, based on the type of boat as well as the course, now keeping in mind that the first leg of this race is going against the wind, and then after that first leg, they're going to have the winds at their back, so we could very well see perhaps a lead change because of this.
Right now, it seems like that Sexy Busan is doing so well that it's going to be difficult to catch that boat. But for some of the other boats, among those boats, some of the lighter boats, again, hulls that are shaped more like sports boats, quite narrow, long at the waterline. Those boats would have a slight advantage during the reaching parts of courses, which means that the wind is coming from the side or from the stern quarter of the boat. That gives you good speed. In strong winds, some of the boats can plane actually. The hull actually starts to plane a little bit.
Well, the weather, definitely a lot of rain, overcast. Not the most favorable conditions, but still we are continuing on here. This is the 2011 Korea Cup International Yacht Race. Jason Lee joined by Mr. Shim Young-shik, and you've actually competed in this race a couple of times. Tell me about your experiences taking part.
Actually, just before coming into the broadcast studio, I watched a video of the race last year, and I remember, or 2 years ago I should say, and I remember I caught a buoy. I didn't see the long line that was coming sideways out of the turn mark, and I caught a buoy, and my keel got caught in the buoy, and I was stuck there for about 2 or 3 minutes, I think. So I don't have very good memories for this race. They're approaching the first mark now.
And things will definitely speed up as we pass the first mark. As mentioned, the wind, they're sailing into the wind right now, but once our boats pass this first buoy, take essentially a big left turn, they're going to have the winds at their back, going for a backwards M from there on back home.
Yeah, and I hope that the lead boat will think about the possibility that there's that long line that might come out of that buoy. And I know the lead boat has a very long keel, so they should be careful running this buoy.
Let's see what their approach is as they close in on that first mark. This is the Sexy Busan, the race leader, as we have an onboard camera as well, taking a look at the crew members and what they're doing.
It's very important to have teamwork going for you, and it's the skipper's responsibility to make sure that the team clicks. If someone doesn't play their part right, then the boat speed dies, and other boats will pass you by. And there's a lot of yelling sometimes when things go wrong. I generally tend to yell a lot when I'm skippering. But it looks like they're rounding the buoy quite close. We'll see.
Very, very tight, it appears. And as mentioned, we'll see if the line is heading out that way or not. And here's the first turn that they're making at mark number 1.
That's great. They're doing a good job. And looks like they'll be raising their spinnaker with the wind coming from the rear corner of the boat. They might raise the spinnaker here. They got it all set. Spinnaker is a big sail that they raise in front of the boat that looks like a big parachute.
And as we take a look, let's see if they raise the spinnaker or not. What's the ideal angle to be sailing? Do you like to have the wind directly at your back, or is it more advantageous to have the wind coming in from the side, or what sort of an angle or degree?
For a boat of the type that we see, Sexy Busan here, looks like they're not going to raise the spinnaker here because maybe the wind angle is not right for the spinnaker. Actually, the wind is so light that if they raise the spinnaker, sometimes the spinnaker in light winds can act as a brake rather than giving you that speed. So it looks like they might not raise it.
Let's take a look where we are in the race right now. The lead boats have just crossed that first mark. They've made the turn. Here is our second boat making the turn right now. And that is the Diva in the open class. So our ORC class leader right now is the Sexy Busan, and the Diva is currently the leader in the open class. Open class leader is skippered by Kim Chung-ho. He's got 8 crew members on board.
He sailed that leg really well. He's not a real fast boat, but he sailed it well if he's the second to turn the mark.
Now we have some digital devices on board here. Are these for weather purposes, or?
No, it gives you the speed, the wind direction, and the apparent wind. That's the wind that the sails feel, the boat feels.
We are taking a look once again, and is this the gust as we are in Yongil Bay in Pohang on the east side of Korea. This is the inshore race of the 2011 Korea Cup International Yacht Race. Jason Lee joined by Shim Young-sik, and we are going to be back to the continuation of this race in a moment as we see the boats rounding the first mark. Here is the time machine, by the way, but we will be back with the remainder of this race in a moment.
A dynamic yacht race in the East Sea. The longest ocean sailing distance in Korea of 1,200 kilometers. The Korea Cup International Yacht Race 2011. After the Yongil Bay Shore Race that is taking place at this very moment, the inshore race around Ulung Island and the offshore race from Pohang to Ulung Island and the Tokto Islands will be held in the East Sea tomorrow. More than 59 teams comprising 226 people from 9 countries will stage an impressive race from Pohang of North Gyeongsang Province to Ulung Island and the Tokto Islands. Before the races begin tomorrow, let's briefly visit Tokto, the halfway point of Korea Cup International Yacht Racing.
Jodong is located at Gyeongseongbuk-do, Ulleung-gun. Early morning, a ferry that is headed to Dokdo sails through the cold current. Dokdo, an island that is 37 degrees north latitude and 131 degrees east longitude, is located about 87 kilometers away from Ulleung-do. The official address is Dokdo-ri, Ulleung-gup, Ulleung-gun, Gyeongseongbuk-do. Now, this is a Dokdo that has always been part of Korea's territory. Ferries usually land on Dongdo, and here they check the visitor's identity as soon as they arrive. This is because Dokdo is designated as a natural monument. Heavy loads are carried through cable cars because of the steep landform, but people have to use the stairs to climb up. The first thing that comes into view at the peak is the Sodo. It is currently under construction to improve its existing facilities. There are many local residents on Dongdo, which is about 151 meters away from Sodo. At Dokdo, there are welcome guests twice a day. It only takes 1.5 hours to get to Dokdo from the mainland by ferry. There are people who prepare for an exciting journey within the short time period. Today, the scuba divers catch the people's attention. The visitors enjoy their short visit, and it is time for them to leave. The locals left behind return to their everyday business. The Dokdo's busy day ends here. Dokdo, which is assumed to have been formed by volcanic activities 2.5 million to 4.6 million years ago, has been carrying along its history and records. In the late 17th century, fisherman An Young-bok received verification from Japan that Ulleung-do and Dokdo were Joseon's territories. In 1900, the administrative district of Ulleung-do was declared to be Dokdo. In 1952, there was the Presidential Declaration on Sovereignty over the adjacent seas, including Dokdo, and in the next year, the Dokdo Volunteer Garrison was established. In 1981, Chae Jung-duk first moved into the Dokdo as a permanent resident, and in 1982, Dokdo was appointed as the Natural Monument number 336. Since 2005, a part of the island is open to the public, and anyone who reports can enter the island. In the future, more and more people will be able to experience Dokdo.
All right, we rejoin the race here. This is Yeongil Bay in Pohang at Bukbu Beach. This is on the east coast of Korea towards the southern side. And our lead boat has just passed the second marker. So as we can see the map here, they're making basically an M shape as they go across the bottom first. They've made that left turn to go up northward, and then just now the lead boats have made that left turn at the second marker to head in a southwesterly direction. Lead boat currently is the Sexy Busan, but we're taking a look here at the Diva, which is the lead boat in the open class, as we do have an ORC class race and an open class race happening simultaneously here at the 2011 Korea Cup.
It's good to see that the Korean boats are in the lead. In the past, it has always been the Russian boats that were in the lead in a race of this kind. We see that Sexy Busan is in the lead and Diva second. And then the three Russian boats, Ghost and First and Time Machine.
Following slowly behind, here is the Sexy Busan, the lead boat. And once again, taking a look at the weather conditions, 24 degrees, 64% humidity with easterly winds, 3 meters per second is the local weather conditions. Now, this is just the inshore race as the 2011 Korea Cup is not just about this one race. It's actually a series of races that are going to be taking place over the next couple of days. One is this inshore race that's in the shape of an M, but there's also going to be an offshore race, including a trip out to Tokdo, which is one of the main reasons that this race is taking place, I understand.
Yes, Korean sailors, well, actually Tokdo is near and dear to the hearts of Koreans and to Korean sailors as well. And in fact, many Korean sailors really counted an achievement when they can sail out to Tokdo and come back. It's out in the middle of the ocean. It's offshore sailing, and conditions can get wicked at times. And so it is sort of like the ultimate destination for a sailor in Korea. But this race is, has several different legs. The first leg, the offshore leg, would be from Pohang to Ulleungdo. That's a lovely island on the Eastern Sea. And then at Ulleungdo, there's an inshore race in front of Sadong Harbor. When that is over, the following day, then there's a parade out from Ulleungdo to Tokdo. And then finally from Tokdo to Pohang. That's a long leg, 250 kilometers. And when you combine all of the legs, you will have about 545 kilometers, which is a very, very long race. Several days out in the ocean.
Going to be a long few days for these people involved. Once again, we're having a look at the Diva here. They are leading the open class here of this inshore race, as we've talked about. And the Dokdo Islands, I mean, this is clearly one of the main reasons that they've started this race, now in its fourth year, by the way. And one of the things, I mean, obviously there's a lot of publicity towards Dokdo, trying to acknowledge it as Korean territory. And one of the key figures, we've got several celebrities who are actually sponsoring this race and trying to help publicize Dokdo as well.
Yes, one of them is the singer Kim Jang-hoon. He's very well known for donating most of his income to charities. And this time he decided to really promote this Dokdo race, the Korea컵 race. He is sort of the modern-day keeper of Dokdo Island. He's taken out big ads on the Wall Street Journal and other newspapers. And so he's doing a lot to promote this race and to promote the fact that Dokdo belongs to Korea and to no one else.
Certainly almost like a modern-day Robin Hood, except he doesn't steal from anybody. He basically earns his money and donates. I mean, a good portion, like you said, he's very well known in the Korean community for being a famous singer, but also for being a very generous person, donating, like you mentioned. I mean, not even like a small percentage of his earnings, but really a large chunk.
Yes.
In most cases.
Yes, he has donated millions and millions of dollars over the years.
And we're taking a look at the spinnaker of the time machine right now. This is one of the Russian boats, and that is just a beautiful shot. When you see that sail come out, just a beautiful, beautiful shot of these sailboats here. Now, when you have the spinnaker, obviously you've got the wind behind you. You're going to gain a lot more speed from it as well. And I think from a visual standpoint, like I said, when you see that spinnaker out there, I mean, so many people have different patterns out there, and just a beautiful sail to see from a great distance.
If you take a look at the yacht race, one of the most beautiful things you can see is having maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 boats out there with all of their spinnakers up. I know there's another race in Korea, it's Admiral East Cup, where they have about 100 boats, and they generally have a spinnaker start. They have two classes, and maybe each class is about 50 boats. And when they have all their spinnakers up and start, it's a beautiful sight. Here today in Yongin Harbor, or Bay, we see all the spinnakers up with the lead boats. And when all these boats turn this mark, the second mark, they all put their spinnakers up. And it just creates a lovely painting, so to speak, of the ocean. In fact, a lot of painters, when they paint a seascape, they would like to put up a sailboat with their spinnaker up or beautiful sails up.
Absolutely a beautiful sight to see. Here is the Sexy Busan, the lead boat approaching the third marker. As the third marker of the M-shaped course, it's going to be taking a right turn here, so to say, and heading back to the northwestern side. And then it will have basically just one more buoy to negotiate.
Well, because the winds are so light, it seems like everyone's so relaxed. When I saw the Sexy Busan crew, I think they were having a picnic.
Boats from all different countries here, roughly 10 countries represented, and a Korean boat in the lead here as the Sexy Busan.
Sexy Busan is an IMS 46, and it's a new boat that just came on the scene. I believe their first real big race was at the Lee's Cup last year, and everyone was amazed to see the boat. So beautiful and big like that, and very fast, of course.
What are the differences that make a good sailor or a good skipper? For instance, if you have the best boat, but you don't know how to sail, are you going to be able to beat someone that has a lesser boat but is an excellent sailor?
That sounds like me. But I think, of course, each boat has a rating. Unlike golf, where the player gets a handicap rating, in sailing, it's the boat that gets the rating. And so given the boat and given the weather conditions, the wind conditions, if you can sail wisely, if you can do everything right, you have the opportunity to beat almost any boat on handicap. And of course, if you sail in a fleet race where, one design race where all the boats are the same, then you have to be the first across the line. But in a fleet race where handicap is applied like today's race, as long as you can sail to your handicap, almost like in golf, you are assured of a good placing, maybe on the podium.
What are some of the things that might give you a handicap? What gives a boat a handicap?
Well, the weight of the boat or displacement, the size of the sails, the beam of the boat, the width of the boat, and a lot of other things are taken into consideration. It's rather a scientific way of predicting the velocity of a boat, and that's what the ORC club rating does. The PHRS rating system also applies some of the same principles, but between the two rating systems, ORC is more scientific. I'm sorry. One of the things that I should mention is that for the ratings, no matter what rating system you're working under, one of the most important factors is the length at waterline, the boat's length as it touches the water. The longer the length of waterline, the faster the boat upwind.
And here is our lead boat. The Sexy Busan continues to lead this race. In races like this, if you're in the lead at the beginning, does it generally mean that you'll win in the end, or what sort of factors might play into allowing a boat from behind to be able to catch a boat in front of it?
Well, again, we have the handicap rating system, so that as long as you sail up to your handicap's predicted abilities, then there is a chance that you could always beat a faster boat. And so boats sailing behind Sexy Busan don't need to do chart. They still have a chance. I think as long as they make the wise decisions on where to jibe, where to tack the boats, and to see where the wind is along the race course. And looks like here Sexy Busan has caught the wind. They got a real good breeze here going for them. They picked up a lot of speed here. So as long as you can do all of those and then more, then there's a good chance that you can be on the podium.
In auto racing, a lot of times cars will sneak up behind a car in order to drag, to basically make yourself more efficient, aerodynamic, get less wind drag. In sailing, does it work the same way? Is it opposite, or does it matter at all?
It's the opposite, exactly the opposite. You don't want to be stuck behind a boat. You want to get away, you want to tack away from the lead boat if you're really close to that boat, because they rob your sails of wind. Also, when you're sailing downwind with your spinnaker up, if you pass the boat, lead boat, say at its corner, back corner, you can rob the wind from that big spinnaker. In fact, that's beginning to happen here with Time Machine right behind this lead boat here. As it's going past, you will see
Time Machine passing the Gust. Yeah. That is the Gust we see, the dark blue boat. Time Machine on the inside of it.
Yeah. They'll pass because they are robbing the first boat of a lot of wind by going in this at this angle. Look at the spinnaker dying of the lead boat.
Now, generally speaking, if you're the Gust and you're the one being robbed, Is it to the? Are you going to literally get angry, or is this something where you understand that that's what I would have done too?
Well, that's part of racing, and looks like Time Machine is going after the boat right ahead too, in the same way. They can pick up a bit more speed compared to the boats they're robbing the wind from, and pass boats like that. Time Machine is doing a good job here. The lead boat, when you know that some boat with a big spinnaker is coming on your tail end, and they're going to rob your sails of wind, then you have two choices. You can just keep going. As long as it's a short course, short leg, you might just as well just go straight ahead. But if it's a long course, they might jibe away. In other words, go in a different direction, say 90 degrees or say 100 degrees in another direction to move away from that possibility.
And of course, that decision by the skipper being ever so important. As we take a look at the Diva, this is still the leader in the open class.
And they're doing a great job.
As they are currently, I believe, in second place overall.
Oh, the time looks like Sexy Busan has lost a lot of ground here. Looks like Time Machine has caught up quite a bit. And it looks, it's a red sail Diva, I think, right?
Yes. And
Diva's doing really well too.
Yeah, there's first there as well, the green boat to the right. So a lot of boats catching the Sexy. Remember, the Sexy Busan was off to a tremendous lead, especially on that first leg. But as we've hit this backside, a lot of boats trying to catch the Sexy Busan, and you can see that they're going in different directions right now.
Yeah.
As they approach the final buoy, and the Sexy Busan, once it makes this left turn, it is down the home stretch.
Now, the boat in second place has made up a lot of ground. It's the boat called First. That's a Beneteau 40.7. That boat has a very favorable rating. And so if it keeps on sailing at this rate, and maybe even catching up a little bit to Sexy Busan, I'm sure they can beat Sexy Busan on handicap.
This should be an interesting race down the finish. Handicaps playing into factor as well. Here is the Sexy Busan making that final turn. Let's take a look at the buoy. There it is, as it's going to make this left turn, and this is going to be it to the finish line after this.
I think they're too relaxed looking. They should get a little bit nervous here. They got all these boats coming at them.
Now the Sexy Busan making a very wide turn. You can see the other boats making the turn right now. The Sexy Busan deciding to take a very wide turn. It's past that marker by almost 100 meters, it appears.
I don't know why they did that.
The wind is once again coming from the east.
I think maybe with all the big spinnakers up and following Sexy Busan wanted to just get away from all of the sails.
And this might allow some of these other boats to catch it. You can see the first is the green boat there. Sexy Busan, as we take a look, they were the one furthest on the left side. There's the first you see right now. This is going to be an interesting race.
Very interesting race. Right now, First is in a very good position to win on handicap. Beneteau 40.7 has a very good rating, as I said, and that boat used to win a lot of races in Korea. Then the boat was sold to a Russian team some time ago. They changed the name from the Korean name that was there to First.
Here is the Time Machine. They've been in this race a few times before.
Oh yes, they have done really well in this race and other races in Korea. But today they're not having as good a time as in the past.
Let's take a look at the race course. So we're going against the wind down the start. As you see the little M shape around the double peaks, they've just made the final turn and are coming down the home stretch right now. Should finish probably in the next few minutes here.
A few hundred meters remaining.
This is going to be a very exciting finish here for the 2011 Korea Cup International Yacht Race.
Will it be the perennial Russians who will win, or is it the Sexy Busan? Right now, it looks good for the Russians.
And once again, a curious point as the Sexy Busan took a very wide turn. They were in first place by a considerable amount, but around the last buoy, they overpassed it by a good 20-30 meters at least. And we'll see how that plays into a factor. Here is the Sexy Busan on the left here, coming into your screen.
Oh, wow, look at this. There's that Diva right behind.
Diva, the leader in the open class.
That's amazing that Diva could stay up with Sexy Busan. That's good sailing.
Sexy Busan appears to still have a slight edge in the lead. And it looks like it will cross the finish line in first.
It is now crossing the finish line. Okay, they are in first in real time, but I think they'll have a difficult time winning first on handicap.
So Sexy Busan, by perhaps a couple of boat lengths, finishes in first in the ORC class.
Looks like about 5 or 6 boat lengths. Tiburon is doing really well. That yellow hull, they've done really well.
Looks like they might be able to sneak in there in second. It's between Tiburon and first. Diva right there as well. We'll see if the Time Machine has an opportunity to sneak in, as the race for second place is going to be very interesting. Tiburon, it looks like, has come second, followed by, I believe, Diva. But of course, this will all be determined by handicaps afterwards. But for the time being, Busan has crossed the finish line first. Tiburon has crossed the finish line second.
Okay, Time Machine and First are crossing at almost the same time now. Time Machine has a much higher rating than First. So it looks like First has won this race on handicap. That's my prediction right now.
Boats are just crossing the finish line right now in the 2011 Korea Cup International Yacht Race. This is the inshore portion of the race, which will be continuing on for a few days, including an offshore race to the Dokdo Islands and back into Pohang.
And while the offshore races are taking place to Ulong Island and to Dokdo and then back to Pohang, on June 4, 5, and 6, they will have inshore races in Pohang called Pohangup. That's another race that's under the umbrella or the auspices of the Korea Cup.
Well, the race is just finishing up here. As mentioned, it is the Sexy Busan which has crossed the finish line first. Tiburon crossing the finish line second, as we take a look at the ladder boats coming in as well. Here is the Carrera. That is a Russian boat as well. They've been in this race a few times also.
Yes. Again, the Russians have done really well.
Sexy Busan waving.
They take first in real time.
Certainly have to be pleased with the results so far. They got off to such a big lead off that opening leg and making a wide turn along the final stretch. And as we take a look at the crew, a camera on the head cam as well, looking to take some pictures during this voyage.
And then we see the slower boats straddling in now. It's going to be probably another 10 to 20 minutes before all of the boats finish.
What is generally more difficult or enjoyable between an inshore race and an offshore race?
Well, it just depends on whether you like adventure or not, whether you can put up with seasickness for the next several days, and whether you don't get too afraid about sailing over through 5 or 6 meter waves in the middle of the night in the dark. If you like that kind of experience, then you can do the offshore race. But if you want nice, calm sea conditions, then it's the inshore race.
All right, we just saw the backdrop of Pohang. Of course, Pohang is a steel town in Korea. Going for their steel over there. Here's the Venus finding its way in. So as we slowly finish up the race results here, the Sexy Busan crossing the finish line in first place as the Tiburon crosses slowly behind it. The Diva crossing the finish line first for the open class as they take that race. This has been the 2011 Korea Cup International Yacht Race. My name is Jason Lee. I'm with Shim Young-sik, and keeping in mind that this is the inshore race, there is going to be an offshore race over the next couple of days, as well as boats will be going from Pohang here out towards Ulongdo. They will parade across back to Dokdo, which is right next to there, a big reason for the Korea Cup taking place at all. And then they're going to find their way back from Dokdo all the way back to Pohang. There are going to be races in various stop points as well. So, you know, if you have some time and you're able to make it out to the east side of Korea, then perhaps why not take in some of the races, take a look at these beautiful boats, and also perhaps take a trip out to Dokdo and Ulongdo to be able to see some of the beauty that Korea has to offer.
Yes, there will be about 30 boats in Pohang racing for the next 3 days now.
All right, well, this has been the 2011 Korea Cup International Yacht Race. Jason Lee, along with Shim Young-sik, saying this is going to be a great opportunity for you to go out and take a look at some great sailing going on. This, of course, is on the east side of Korea. Today's race taking place in Pohang, but it will be moving out to Ulongdo over the next couple of days. Taking a look at our finishes, the Sexy Busan in first, Tiburon in second, and first, actually, in third. In terms of crossing the finish line, there, of course, will be some changes to those finishes based on handicaps that will be implied after the race is complete.
Of the top boats that have just finished, looks like first is sitting in really good place to finish first overall in handicap. The open class, I think Diva has done really well, but it depends on when the rest of the boats finish. There may be some boats out there with a very low handicap, and they may straggle in later on, but as long as they can sail up to their handicap, they have a chance.
It's kind of, I guess anticlimactic, but in sailing, it's one of the factors in an open race like this, or an ORC race, is that, you might not find out some of the results, of the official results, so to say. But for the time being, our results is that Sexy Busan comes in first place, Tiburon in second, and first finishing in third place. This has been the 2011 Korea Cup International Yacht Race. Jason Lee and Shim Young-sik saying goodbye.